Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching our on-demand feature. I am actually here with the director, creator, and subject of Shoveling Pixie Dust, Tim Landry. So, hi, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm good, Katie. What's going on?
Oh, just a huge festival. That's
Ah,
no big deal. No big deal. So I want to start off with I absolutely love this film. It touched on a whole bunch of aspects that are really dear to me, with the going in depth into the different ways that you were creating some effects, especially when talking about cabbages and kings, and then also just the Disney parks are very close to my heart. So it was amazing to watch your film and see kind of the in-depth aspects of everything. So thank you for sharing it with us.
well, I'm glad that it resonates with people, especially you.
Oh,
Make you
definitely.
smile. Look at that.
Absolutely, it does. And so I guess one of my first questions, because I know my husband actually, who's our festival tech, he was like, when we were in the Disney park last, he's like, I think I want to be an Imagineer one day. So I was just wondering, what is some of the things that, like, what's some advice that you would give to someone interested either in getting into filmmaking or getting into Imagineering?
Well, my career straddled both of those things. I started out wanting to be a filmmaker, went to film school, worked doing commercials, then got into doing television, then got into doing features. And that was gangs of fun, but the work dried up. A lot of it went overseas. I work in Los Angeles. And
Yes.
I needed something else to do. It was kind of a bad time for me in the early 2000s. And I had a friend in Imagineering that called me up. So that's how I got in. But in order to really answer your question, which is, how can I become an Imagineer? The answer is be really good at something that can help create the magic. And that can mean writing computer code. That can mean being an architect. That can mean being a painter. Just be really good at something and they'll talk to you.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Thank you for that. And so this film it kind of encompasses your entire life, and it's very in depth in many areas of it. But obviously there is your illness that kind of inspired some of this. But when did you realize that you needed to turn your story into a film? And what was kind of the final click that went into place to make you go, okay, now I'm going to do it?
Well, this film kind of grew uh, out of COVID, quite literally, because what I was doing to fill my days during lockdown, and we had been on furlough at Imagineering, I started retouching and restoring some family photos. And that led me to, family photos like my wedding, for instance, which
Mhm.
was in really bad shape because it was not done professionally. So I cleaned those up, and then I moved on and did some of the behind the scenes photos from a student film I had made back in the 1970s. And those started looking really good. And I started thinking, gee, I could almost make a making of this student film. And I got into that and started looking at it a little bit more in depth. And it didn't make sense to make a making of a film that nobody's seen unless you involve what came before and what came after. And before you knew it, I was making an autobiography. And it turns out to have a 3-act structure, beginning, middle, and end. And people seem to resonate with it. It seems to be an encapsulation of the human experience, even though it's one weird guy.
I definitely get that feeling from it, that it just touches on just something that everybody can understand, both the struggles of it and then the successes. Like, I found myself celebrating along with you when something would go really well in your life and stuff. But you are a fascinating person too, and I think that helps a lot.
Oh, shucks, I bet you say that to all the directors.
I wish I could, but not all of them are Imagineers. Just kidding.
Oh, okay.
So there's so many elements in this film, which I think is fascinating, that you were able to go and find like this piece of this film that you did, and these behind the scene photos from this, and then some pictures of you, what, like just collecting pictures of like the Disney studios and stuff like that, so that we could.
That was how we spent most of the time of the production, is sort of a twofold process. One, just finding the material, but second of all, virtually everything has gone through some sort of major restoration. There's modern tools that we've got now that can sharpen them up, color correct them, get rid of blemishes. It's I spent my time polishing things up to make it look the best it could, and actually also to give you more of a sense that you're in a time machine, that you're going back to a time that no longer is, before the empire, before the dark times.
It's true. It's true. It does, and it is very much like encapsulated in the time. So when you say you were restoring things, was there anything that you kind of left just so that you could make it still feel like things that happened in the 70s? Was there anything that you were like, oh, we better not touch that up completely or else it won't look like the 70s anymore? Or did you kind of just go, no, these actually, in order for an audience today to appreciate it, we had to move everything forward?
It's more the latter. Usually I could only get things up to a certain level and have to be satisfied with what that was. It's certainly nowhere near the level that we're used to in modern times.
Absolutely, completely get that. And so, okay, so the short student film that you mentioned, you were kind enough to share with us, so everybody has seen it. Just before we actually go into the feature, we show Cabbages and Kings. And so I wanted to talk about that very briefly. You do definitely cover any question I could have asked about the film in the documentary, which is very cool to watch the different ways that you went and the struggles that film went through. So my question is more about the rest of the team and the crew that was involved in it. Are you still in touch with any of them, and still like, were you able to share with them the restoration that you did? And yeah, who are you in touch with, I guess, basically?
Some of them. I did manage to get a hold of the cameraman, Mike McAllister. He's retired too, and he lives in Northern California. He was a very successful visual effects supervisor. And our production manager, I tried, but could not get a hold of him. I'm friends on Facebook with our editor, Jay Haran. I had one Facebook message with the star of the show, Nuri Ibars, and I haven't been in touch with her since, even though I've tried. I even considered having her narrate shoveling pixie dust, but my wife talked me out of it.
It definitely does resonate with you being our narrator there, and then it's just nice to keep hearing your voice. And so my final question, unless there's anything else that you wanted to add, a final question that I always ask everybody is, what is next for your film and you?
Well, it's doing the rounds of film festivals. It's had an acceptance rate of over 50%. At one time, it was like 67%, but I've had a few rejections recently. And that, I think, is fairly impressive for a film that had a budget of precisely zero. You know, you might want to think about that as you watch the film. What does a film that has zero budget actually look like? And that's what we put together, because it was all things off the cutting room floor, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Very much a labor of love. How long would you say it took you to create overall the entire project?
It's kind of hard to count. Well, we shot the opening and closing in April of last year. And then I was in the hospital for a week. No, it was a month. And then we also moved. We no longer live in the house that you see in the beginning of the movie. So overall, I'd say I spent about 5 months on the show.
Fantastic. Well, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing your story, being so open with the story as well. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's good to talk to you, Katie. A real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim, and everybody. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the festival.